Currently, FIFA's been involved in a lot of controversy, which actually goes without saying. Over the last couple of years, we've seen FIFA involved in pretty much every single controversy imaginable.
Today I feel Qatari. Today I feel African. Today I feel gay.
It's definitely not known for being completely away from controversy and sometimes corruption. However, this year we've seen the kind of full-fledged of ugliness of the issues that we're facing this World Cup, and one of the main ones is racism, unfortunately. Whilst we have had issues with individual players in the past, this year more than anything it's been fans. We've seen a lot of criticism of how the Argentinians were acting, especially around Speed, who, if you don't know, is a content creator, really famous, really big platform, and was, racial gestures were made to him whilst he was there to enjoy the football and create content. And essentially, it's looking like virtually nothing was done to prevent that. Whilst on top of that, we're also seeing fans interact with the players in ways that are racially discriminating. And obviously, with the recent news, it is more important that we do take these people's emotional and mental health more seriously. More than anything, I think the reason why it matters is because this is a World Cup. So this is every single country coming together to play a sport that's overall incredibly beautiful. It's, a form of art, I'd argue. You have to master it. People get incredibly passionate. They want to support their teams, their countries, their favourite players. And it really just draws the kind of fun and humanity out of something that is supposed to be a celebration of humanity. Interestingly, the vast majority of people and fans who engage with football agree that racism is a massive issue within football at the moment and that it does need to be addressed. It's just how we go from recognizing that there's an issue to actually doing, productive stuff that helps prevent this going forwards. And unfortunately, despite the fact that they've added in all these new rules, FIFA seem to be kind of lacking with regards to actually placing them, with regards to actually doing something instead of saying they're going to do something. Obviously, on top of that, now that we're in this kind of changing and technologically advanced world, we're seeing different forms of racism take place, and we're seeing kind of cyber hate crimes taking place now where players finish, leave the match, go home and are still targeted by racial abuse.
After a majority of games, I'll get a racist message in my Instagram inbox, whether it's 1, 2 or 3, it can depend on what I've done in the game. If I've made a foul, if I've done something, there's not a single job in the world where you deserve to be criticised with racism, but that's the world we live in. And that's why we've got to do more. That's why the people in power have got to do more.
And it's obviously going to become more of an issue as we're seeing more and more cultures kind of gather online, and essentially we're seeing everyone move to the internet nowadays, especially younger generations. Whilst I think that the online racism is a massive issue that we're seeing, I think I want to make a separate video on that just because it's so specific. And then with regards to football on pitch, I think that FIFA has much more of a direct role in that. Whereas with the online stuff, what I want to focus on there is what tech companies actually should be doing to try and prevent that. Obviously, different organisations have also recognised that racism is an issue that is affecting the game and the players, and so there is a 3-step protocol that FIFA itself also claims to have adopted, whereby if racial abuse is reaching a certain level or is visible at all, they are allowed to suspend the match or abandon the match. This can obviously create a difference in how fans react and how fans interact with the players. However, the issue is FIFA's never actually gone ahead with suspending or abandoning a match ever because of racial abuse. Obviously, the issue here is that FIFA have a lot of money to make from these matches, and it just sucks so much that realistically that's probably the reason that no matches have been abandoned or suspended in the FIFA World Cups, when there's actual human lives at stake here. These aren't just, comedians, these aren't just characters on a TV show, these are real human beings who have to go home and live with the consequences of what they're living through and what they have to live through every day because of it. Obviously, even worse than that, this year we've seen the crossed arms gesture be completely ignored. The crossed arms gesture is basically a way to call out racism whilst it's happening. A player or kind of like anyone who's around immediate racism on the pitch, or whether fans are interacting in a racist way, can essentially do like a cross motion to indicate that there is racial injustice happening, so the match can stop and the issue can be dealt with. However, this year we've already seen that be essentially completely ignored, so it's not done what it was supposed to do. During the Argentina and Egypt match, the cross was thrown up by Egypt's coach when his players were facing racism from the fans, and fortunately we're seeing Argentina especially their fan base pop up a lot recently in discussions of racism, especially within the sport. However, what happened here was actually the opposite of what was supposed to be the protocol according to FIFA. Instead of actually addressing the issue by suspending the match, cancelling the match, or preventing the players from continuing until the issue was dealt with, the Egyptian coach was actually punished for throwing up the cross, which is insane because it's supposed to be kind of like almost like a plea for humanity. You know, punishing someone for calling out something so inherently ignorant and cruel is such a corrupt thing to do, and it definitely doesn't help the kind of stereotype that at the moment the only thing FIFA truly cares about is money and not the sport or the game or the love of the game. Really not helping with the corruption kind of image it's given itself. And I think essentially my point is that going forward, if we want the sport to change, if we want this ruled out, which statistically the vast majority of people do, people are good on the whole. People want good, they want change, they want to respect people, love people, support people, and if we want this game to be free of that, I think more than anything it's going to come down to the fans and people who watch and engage in it, because I genuinely just do not believe that $1 billion company that's going to profit off of this kind of like rage baiting division culture is actually going to do anything. I feel like if something was actually going to be done, something meaningful was going to be done, it would have been done by now. There would have been a suspension, there would have been a match abandoned. We've seen horrific incidents of racism this year, and so far, even though the case with Aisha Speed is currently still being investigated, the Egypt match, we didn't see what should have happened, I don't believe. It's just not being dealt with properly. Essentially, I think more than anything, it's down to us to kind of like ref the behavior of other fans. I'm not a fan of using AI where people can be using their brains, especially because we've seen the cognitive declines in people who heavily rely on AI, but using AI systems to do facial recognition and recognize fans who are being repeatedly racist or racist in general could be useful here, because we could implement kind of like these bans on stadiums, bans on tournaments, for specific fans who aren't willing to kind of be respectful towards humanity. I also think calling out behaviour whilst you're there could be incredibly important, even if that person is on the same side as you and if they're supporting the same team as you. Being able to recognise that behaviour and visually, see it and then call it out whilst you're there, regardless of what shirt they're wearing, is going to be really important going forward. During the moment of silence that occurred during the Norway and England match, we saw this kind of really respectful moment from both sides where everyone was quiet. When there were people who obviously weren't fans of the game who started to try and shout over the moment of silence, you saw other fans beside them hush them, tell them to shut up, bug them a bit. And unfortunately, one of the reasons that's given for racial abuse not being picked up on by the referee in matches is because it's done in a native language that the referee himself does not speak and cannot pick up on. And so this is why it's so important, I think, for people attending the stadium to be kind of like policing that behaviour, because you probably do speak the native language that the referee maybe doesn't understand, and you can call that behaviour out, you can make it known. Going forward, we obviously know that large companies can be very corrupt and don't necessarily have people's best interests in heart, but as humans, we should be able to recognise that the players on the pitch aren't characters in a TV show. They are real human beings who go home to lead real human lives, and they have, these kind of mental health issues, they have vulnerabilities, they have emotions. What is going on here needs to be called out, and if big businesses, if billion-dollar brands aren't willing to do it, then you should love the game enough to do it yourself. On top of that, I really think that we should be implementing technology here, because it's happening at such a large scale. You have so many fans in an audience, it's hard to recognize someone. But with AI, with kind of facial recognition, you can spot these racists who are ruining the match for both sides, clock them and give them these kind of lifetime bans from that specific stadium, from those matches, or even, go towards, criminal investigations there, because obviously it is a criminal offence. Regardless, the main takeaway is the vast majority of people enjoying football understand how harmful this kind of racial abuse is and how badly it damages the match. If you love the match, if you love your team, you don't want to be treating other human beings like this, because it destroys the beauty of it. More than anything, I think it's important that we realise that A, this is ruining the game, and B, there are things that we can do to prevent it and should be moving towards, with or without the kind of backing of FIFA if they're not going to play ball. Stadiums themselves should be responsible for the fans they let in, and the fans themselves should be responsible for how people in that arena are acting and if they're ruining the game. Human beings deserve humanity, always, regardless of whether they're kicking a ball around or not.